You're watching another Nerd Stalker interview. Okay, we're live. Good morning. Welcome to another Nerd Stalker interview. This is Greg Valoria, aka Social Greg on Twitter from the Nerd Stalker Media Network. We're continuing our Kickstarter Unbox series, interview series, where we highlight existing and post Kickstarter entrepreneurs and their stories. Today, I'm pleased to talk with Jock Brightweiser. I'm glad he gave me his notes there, how to pronounce his name. That would have been a really tough name for me. And Daniel Ayub of ITIS Networks, then co-creators of a Kickstarter project that kind of caught my eye called iGuardian, live here on Google Plus Hangouts from the Silicon Valley. So iGuardian is said to be the first line of defense for anything you're trying to get into and out of your home network, and I'll let Jock and Daniel talk more about that. And let me tell you a little bit about Jock. He's been in various marketing and corporate communication roles in fairly large companies and agencies, all spanning almost over 20 years. Born in Germany, but California in heart, he says. So, and a little bit about Daniel. He's an experienced product person from companies like Toshiba, Cisco, and even pre-Geek Squad stint at Best Buy. But at ITIS Networks, he's the creative visionary and inventor of iGuardian. Daniel's a lifelong hobbyist and hacker turned entrepreneur, and I think they call it maker these days, don't they? Uh, but when not working and keeping on the internet safer at everyone's home, he enjoys spending time with his wife and two young boys and dog in sunny San Jose, California. So anyway, good morning, Jock and Daniel. Thanks for joining us here on Nerd Stalker.
Hey, good morning, Greg. Thanks for having us.
Hey, anything you want to add about yourself that I missed on your intro and bio to the Nerd Stalker audience?
No, I think you captured it really well, and you know what? I mean, we're just two regular guys down in Silicon Valley, down here in San Jose, and you know we're nerds at heart. So we thought that would be a great audience, and we feel right at home with you.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Daniel, you wanted to add anything?
No, just very excited to be here. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
No, I mean you guys got a lot of press. When I noticed going onto the Kickstarter website of yours and or your campaign website, and it was kind of cool. So let's jump in and talk about iGuardian and what it is and the Kickstarter campaign. So, at the time of our broadcast, I just looked it up about 2 milliseconds ago. iGuardian Kickstarter campaign has over 950 backers and over 150K raised, which is well over your 125% of your goal. I think your goal was what 125K, I believe.
Yes.
Um, so I guess you would be added to the list of popular and successful Kickstarter campaigns, I guess, if you want to be put on that list. So, when did you launch this product called iGuardian? I was curious about this.
So Jock and I have worked together at a SMB firewall company for a number of years, and after we moved on, we kept in touch and we're friends. At one point, a couple months ago, my wife asked me to take a look at her mother's computer. And so I took the computer down and started messing with it, trying to clean it up, and I found that she had over 120 Trojans or viruses basically on that computer. And I spent my whole weekend cleaning it up, and then I went to go give it back to her, and I said, well, let me go get one of those SMB firewalls from work and put it in her home. And it occurred to me that that's a very, very expensive and complicated thing to do. So we kind of identified, Jock and I talking over lunch one day, we kind of identified that there's definitely an opportunity in the market for a simple but effective home network security appliance. And I think that was part of the direction that we were looking at. So.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, Greg, is when you walk into the big box stores like Fry's down here in the South Bay, or when you go to Best Buy or others, you know, it's we all know these guys, and when you go in there and say, hey, I want to secure my home network and everything that's attached to it, they show you either and say, hey, okay, on the left there's your antivirus, and on the right there's your routers, and those are essentially the options that you have, right? So, and you're really just stuck with these two. And we looked at the market and we thought, hey, we can do better than that. You know, it's really time for a better solution out there.
This is amazing to me because, like, when I looked at your box and I looked at what I did, why hasn't even if people like Cisco thought about this? I don't understand this. But anyway, can you tell the audience exactly, about the iGuardian product and what it does and what it's meant for and all that stuff?
Sure. So at the core of the product is a intrusion prevention system. So it's running Snort as the core OS, but basically it's a small, simple device that sits in line between your cable modem and your wireless router. All the traffic coming in and going out of your network, it's going to be inspecting that, looking for patterns of known attacks. If it finds something, it'll drop the offending packets and then reset that connection. So it's really a way of being able to protect against a lot of the more types of cyber attacks that we see going on today. And as far as why somebody like a Cisco or others haven't done it, the technology is actually fairly mature. It's been used in the market for more than 10 years, but it's primarily always been considered a business class solution. It's never been something that people have tried to deploy in a residential environment. And I think there was just a line drawn in the sand, to be honest, where people in the industry said this technology is too difficult for home users and it's too expensive and too complicated. Nobody ever tried to address those issues before. So I think that's kind of the unique thing that I see in what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. To Daniel's point, we launched our Kickstarter campaign a couple of weeks back in August, and went to DEF CON, exhibited over there, and spoke to quite a few people. And we actually met the gentleman who wrote the first book about using Snort as an inline IPS, just like Daniel just described. And yeah, he looked at our booth and he almost teared up. And said, "I wrote this book 10 years ago, and I can't believe that I'm now, after 10 years, finally see somebody turn this into an available product." And otherwise, like Daniel said, yes, you can, spend your weekend at home and you can build the whole thing yourself, and just use a lot of time and effort to try to compile it right and get it set up. But there's really nothing available like that consumers can easily access. And there's really no high quality enterprise class solution out there that's at the same time also easy to use. And that's what we thought was really big potential differentiator. And when we spoke to people out in the industry that we knew or that we reached out to as our advisors, if you wish, and said, "Hey, here's our idea. Here's what we want to do. Does that make sense?" And everybody said, "Yeah, that's a great idea. You should absolutely do this." And then we said, "Why has nobody done this before?" Because to your point, Greg, it seemed exactly as strange as you just said, right? It seems so natural and such a clear choice, but for some reason or another, nobody ever decided to go after it. So we were like, okay, let's do this and see what happens.
Well, I noticed I interview enterprise security people as well as some people who are experts in that area who are developing on the software side, right? And I think one thing that was kind of cool about what you were talking about, and I didn't realize it was really isolated to the business networks, which makes a lot of sense. That all of our consumer grade stuff is when the actual virus, malware, whatever you want to call it, is actually in our machine already.
Exactly.
So, and I just thought about that. Yeah, what you're doing is you're just preventing it from coming in completely. And I guess this is kind of important for this new realm, new world we're going to, where all these IoT devices are starting to come on board, right?
Absolutely. And if you think about the way consumer electronics are manufactured and just the way the industry works today, it's very, very much cost-driven. So they're trying to produce very, very high volume at a very, very low cost. Security is usually an afterthought, if at all, and it's usually something that they don't do very well. There are numerous examples of consumer-grade Internet of Things devices that have just massive security holes in them and lots of different vulnerabilities. And it seems as though every year those guys will rev the product. They'll come up with a new version, and if you get one or two versions behind, the likelihood of them releasing a firmware patch for a security update becomes pretty slim. Even if they do produce the patches, though, you look at somebody like my mother. She's not going to know how to upgrade the firmware in her IP cam or in her router or whatever. So there isn't really a good solution for people in that kind of situation today.
So it might be a good, I mean, that we'll segue into the Kickstarter in a little bit, but I think that it's interesting, selling this must have been a challenge of how to market this, because it's like people understand malware, they understand the way, especially when they get affected, they understand viruses, especially when it's broadcasted all over the news. But, I think these type of products are hard to market to people. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
what one of the things was that we had to decide early on, just like you said, Greg, was to really decide who do we want to talk to, who do we want to sell this to, because we really have two audiences. And when you look at the product, it's fairly high quality, very high quality components, and so from that perspective, it's really made for the hobbyists, the makers, like I said earlier. And for those people, they can use it as a platform to develop early on, and expand on that. And then at the same time, our mission as a company is really the audience that Daniel described, the people that really don't want to deal with the complexities of technology and the networks. So we made the box that we sell extremely easy to use, where you just really plug it in between your modem and your router, and you're done if you don't want to do anything else. And you're still protected, and you have a very high level of security in a very short amount of time. It takes you less than 5 minutes to install and boot the whole thing up. But for those people, you can just really plug it, set it, and forget it. And at the same time, if you do want to use it, and if you do want to develop based on the platform, and if you want to use the components that we have built into the box, you can do that too. So it's two very different audiences. You're absolutely right.
Interesting. So anyway, let's shift over to the Kickstarter campaign and how you guys have used Kickstarter. So what made you choose Kickstarter? It's probably a natural for hardware, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
I think for the challenges that we were facing with respect to manufacturing, it wasn't the cost of making one box. It's that in order to be able to get the price down to a point where we can make it affordable, we needed volume, basically. We needed like 1,000 units. We also viewed Kickstarter as a very, very nice community for new projects, and we thought it was a good opportunity to do it that way. I think it just it was a natural fit given the path that we were going down.
I see. No, that's good. I think so. Maybe both of you give me some of your initial thoughts about the Kickstarter experience. Now that the campaign is nearing completion, I think you have probably less than a couple days, I believe, or a little bit over a couple days of time left. So tell us about the Kickstarter experience for you as a hardware product designer, entrepreneur.
Yeah, so the campaign, you're right, is it runs until Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific. So if you want to get in, now's the time to do it. 50 hours left. We're we're doing the countdown, and it's the initial response, or what we saw was a lot of interest, and that was one of the reasons why we went onto Kickstarter, because we wanted to make sure before we dive deeper into this that there's actually a market for the kind of product that we want to sell. So that was one of the insights that we got, and we got a lot of very interesting feedback, and a lot of support. And there were a number of people who came back to us and had fantastic ideas. So there was a lot of really interesting input as well.
Wow. No, I hear a lot from other people we've interviewed here on Kickstarter Unboxed that a lot of the challenges really have not been the lack of getting comments, but the dealing with all the comments. I think I heard. So you guys have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not it's not a store, right? It's an active engagement with the audience that you're going to be asked a lot of questions. People are going to have a lot of great ideas, and we found that that was actually very, very complex, like very, very helpful, because a lot of the suggestions that were raised were things that we might have thought about at one point in time or didn't at all, and that was very, very helpful to get that additional perspective. Also, it's just that the Kickstarter experience is it's an experience in itself. It's a very, very unique type of platform in that sense. There isn't, I mean, there are a few competitors out there, but you really have to actively manage the campaign. It's not going to drive itself. I think that's the big thing that I found, and it is a big commitment. It's not something that you're just going to put up the page and come back in 30 days and collect your money. You're working on it every day, and managing every little aspect of it. So it's a big undertaking, definitely.
It's that, and then the other interesting component to the whole Kickstarter experience is that it's also very interactive, right? So you directly communicate with your client base, so to speak, and you get a lot of questions, but you also have an opportunity to engage with them from your side. So you can send out updates, or you can ask people to do things. And one of the things that we did quite a bit was actually to go back to our backers and say, hey, can you help us spread the word? And so leveraging the social networks of the people that actually we knew would support our cause and that had a vested interest in actually seeing our project succeed. So very, very interesting and multiple ways of communicating there.
Yeah, let's talk about communication a little bit and advertising for your product. We were talking offline a little bit earlier, and when you looked at a product, your Kickstarter campaign page, you see it peppered with all these different people who wrote about you, but you guys didn't have any PR, right? How did you approach promoting this and getting it into some of the people who want to write about it?
We have one of the best PR.
Oh, you do have PR
in the industry. We have a great PR person that we work with. So I'll let Jock talk about that.
Jock, right?
Thanks. That's I'm blushing. I hope you can see that on camera.
Yeah, you are turning red, Jock.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's we made it very. We tried to split up our campaign in multiple aspects, and like we said earlier, we exhibited at DEF CON and kicked our Kickstarter campaign off on that day when we started being there physically at the show, and then also used that conference to actually tap into some of the media folks that were attending the conference. So that definitely gave us a great opportunity to speak to some people directly and have interviews at the booth. And meet with them in person, and also be able to show them the product directly in person. So that was definitely very useful for us in terms of helping to explain something that's relatively complex and kind of abstract, and rather than just sending them a picture of a little box, being able to actually show it to them physically. So that definitely made a big difference. And quite honestly, we also looked at all the people that wrote about the topics that are near and dear to our hearts, so and reached out to those folks. So when you see somebody talking about the security challenges for consumers and the Internet of Things, those were people that we reached out to. And again, Twitter, Facebook, our own LinkedIn channels, all of those have been instrumental in our efforts. And yeah, you're right. I mean, we were able to get some really good attention that way, and at the same time, we feel so we do want to promote our product. We definitely we started a company, so we want to see that succeed. But at the same time, we also really have an ultimate cause, and that cause is really making internet for the consumer and home networks more secure, and giving people a real option, and really, in a way, I mean, we're challenging the guys that you mentioned earlier, the big router companies and the antivirus firms. We're essentially throwing the gauntlet, and we're saying, guys, here's our idea. What do you have, right? And so we're really trying to stir the pot a little bit, and it's a little bit David versus Goliath. I mean, we're nowhere near the marketing budgets that they have, but I think the attention that we got also showed that we're headed in the right direction, and that probably also made some of the attraction for some of the reporters that spoke to us, because they saw an interesting concept and two guys that came up with it that were struggling to change the paradigm in the security industry.
Yeah, I interviewed a guy who started a crowdfunding festival. Actually, it's going to be in Berlin in the next week, I think, Friday, Saturday next week. And he said crowdfunding really has changed the landscape of how entrepreneurs could get funding now. You know, you don't have to go through the traditional sources. You don't have to get an SBA loan. You know, you don't have to go beg from an angel and give up half of your company. You know, these are alternatives that allow you guys to, like I said, keep your company, but also jumpstart it in a way that you can make it effective, right?
Absolutely, and I think the points that you outlined are absolutely valid. I think the other thing that we found to be very, very valuable is the concept of market validation, right? So if you look at the dilemma that a lot of entrepreneurs face today, there's two kind of schools of thought that I see, right? There's the people that go out and they say, we're going to get the money before we do anything. We want to have money lined up, and then we'll worry about building everything out. And for us, I think we felt that was kind of not the right approach. We'd rather focus on the product, get the product going, get it going good, solid, and then use the Kickstarter to kind of prove the market, so to speak, demonstrate that there's something there. And then when you are ready to scale and grow, that's when you go after the money, I think. And that for us is probably the next step that we'd be looking at, right? But
right,
logically, yeah. Going in front of an investor with an idea on the back of a napkin, very, very unlikely you're going to get them to give you the funding that you need. But if you can show them that people are buying it, that you've got orders, you've got customers, that's a whole different kind of conversation. So I think that was part of our strategy or approach a little bit.
Yeah, unless you have a proven consumer market that's been known to do these type of things, I think those are the easier ones. At least you could have a conversation about. But otherwise, yeah, all the VCs I talk to, all the fund managers, all those guys, they're said no. Equity companies, they want to see 1,000, 10,000. But I think you're right. Kickstarter gives you that ability to, one, prove your marketability, and two, show investors that the marketability of your concept was right, and you get to tweak it too because of the comments, right? So
yes.
So that's good. So let's go to the next phase, is talk about your timeline and how you get into production.
Sure. So one of the things we did early on that was strategically one of the better decisions I think that we made was we found a local firm in Santa Clara that specialized in doing design for the type of products that we're going after, right? So we're really producing, if you look at the hardware platform that we got, it's really more like a business solution than a consumer solution. The type of components that are being used in there, the quality of it, it's more comparable to like an SMB product than something you'd buy off the shelf at a big box store. That required a certain specialized amount of expertise. So we went looking for a designer and a manufacturer and everything, and tried to line up all the supply chain, the logistics in advance. We found a local firm in Santa Clara that was doing exactly the type of work that we wanted, and we were able to kind of cut a deal where we made a partnership or strategic alliance with them. And that kind of, for us, it offloaded a lot of the risk, and it offloaded a lot of the probability of our success went up by multiple folds at that point, because these guys do this day in, day out. They're specialized in it, and it allowed us to focus on the value add that we bring to the business, as opposed to worrying about all the logistics and everything else.
Yeah, and so with this, quick shout out to our friends over at Rhino Labs, and obviously, in addition to simplifying the process for us, what it also gave us was really a possibility to ensure that we could really tell our backers, you know what, this product is going to happen. We have production facilities lined up. there's a professional machine running in the background. These people know what they're doing. So Rhino Labs is actually developing security devices for very big companies in the space that are really well known. I'm not going to say the names, but they know their stuff, and so we can really vouch for the quality of the product that we will be bringing to market, and at the same time we know we're not going to run into any issues, and neither will our backers. Everybody will be getting their device, and none of the things that you outlined is going to happen. There's not going to be any shortcomings. So in a way, that's probably the easiest question you asked us so far. Got to step it up a little bit, Greg.
Yeah, I guess so. Jeez. No, well, I mean, what is the timeline for delivery of the first units?
So we're looking at fulfillment sometime in February, and that was really to give us an adequate beta and QA cycle so that we do have a very good product.
Wow.
Development has already begun, but yeah, looking at fulfillment probably in February timeframe.
Wow, you guys talk like real veterans of product development. I don't usually hear those type of words from the startups I deal with. Not to say that they're doing it wrong, but it's interesting to say hear beta and quality cycles.
Yeah.
I usually don't hear that on this channel.
It's if you look at our backgrounds, this is the kind of stuff that Jock and I did for a living for large companies for a number of years.
Yes.
And that's how we know each other, because we worked together at one point at a large firewall manufacturer. So
right.
I think that level of experience and bringing that to the table was also a huge value that we were able to demonstrate to our backers and show folks that we've done this before. We're just doing it on our own now, right? And kind of also partnering with Rhino also gives them some reassurance that we're not just soldering boards in our garage, right? That we've got a professional partner on board that we are working with, and I think for us, I think the process, the strategy, setting everything up, putting all the dominoes in a row before launching the Kickstarter, that was absolutely critical. So I think, definitely get all your ducks in a row, so to speak, before even trying to launch a Kickstarter. I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, let's close off the interview. I think you guys killed all my questions. You're right. I probably didn't give you very difficult ones, but anyway, thanks for your time. So how can listeners get a hold of you and learn more about iGuardian and ITIS Networks?
So very easy. Our campaign still runs until Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific. You can go to www.itisnetworks.com/Kickstarter, or you can obviously look for iGuardian in the Kickstarter search box. We're on Twitter, of course, at ITIS Networks. We're on Facebook. Facebook.com/ITIS Networks, and then you have Daniel and myself. If you want to reach out to us directly, it's Daniel at ITIS Networks, or it's Jock at itisnetworks.com. So very easy. We're always here. If somebody's interested, we're happy to talk.
That's great. No, I appreciate your time, guys. Anyway, that was Jock Breitweiser of ITIS Networks and Daniel Ayub of ITIS Networks, the makers of iGuardian, a simple device that gives you the ability to block the threat before it enters your smart refrigerator. So anyway, thanks for joining us, everyone. This is Greg Blur, a.k.a. Social Greg on Twitter for the Nerd Soccer Media Network, where we believe in tech, startups, design, and you. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and be careful out there. Hey, thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Jock. I appreciate it.
Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.